Hello, this is my presentation on why the Bible supersedes science. Okay. In this day and age, there are many people who are vocal about science being the one and only source of reliable information. From the creation of the universe down to RNA sequencing of new fragments all by itself, even in my own blood, even as I write this very essay. Their belief is essentially that if it wasn't seen and can't be quantified, then it must not be true. And this statement couldn't be even more naive. It's as if the cosmos were created and this universe magically appeared in all of its glory at a sheer chance. If that was the case, then surely science could have an explanation as to why we're the only life forms in the entire known universe. As of today, NASA's only discovered 6,000 exoplanets, and consequently, none of the planets that were discovered contain even basic life forms that we're aware of. In other words, chances of humans existing on Earth today are quintessentially small. So small, in fact, that if you wanted to scientifically quantify the probable chances, and by probable, I mean us existing here on Earth as intellectual beings, that guess would equate to around 1 and over 100 million, or 10 followed by 200 million zeros. Frankly, the modern world as it today often presents a stark false dichotomy. Either one trusts the Bible or one trusts science. But from a Christian worldview, while science is a valuable tool for understanding the physical universe, the Bible must be upheld for the ultimate authority, truth, morality, and human purpose. The Bible, as inspired by the Word of God the Almighty, provides the necessary metaphysical framework that gives meaning and context to the very universe that we are attempting to study. Even today, there are many miraculous things that science can't even explain. The position that the Bible must be believed more than science when there's a perceived conflict between the two is not just because the Bible reveals truth that science cannot disprove. It's the rationale that God is omnipresent. And to objectively deny him is the greatest mistake that a person could make. And the following reasons explore some of those differentiating factors. It's that science is limited to the physical. If it can speak the existence of God, the origin of moral laws, the nature of the human soul, what happens after death, it's because the evidence that science can prove is only based on what's seen. The Bible, however, provides definitive answers to these ultimate questions. For example, science can describe the biological process of human life, beginning from after the inception until their ultimate departure from this earth. And the Bible alone explains the Word of God gives life when it was told, "Let us make mankind into our image." Now, I'm going to break this down in another way, and I want to discuss the Higgs boson particle. The Higgs boson, often sensationally dubbed the God particle, represents one of the most profound achievements and findings of modern science that simultaneously exposes the boundary of human knowledge. Its discovery in 2012 confirmed the standard model of particle physics, but the nature of the particle itself and its accompanying field continues to present deep theoretical puzzles that cannot be explained by science. And from a Christian worldview, these scientific unknowns do not signal a failure of science, but rather underscore the inherent limitations when using science to seek ultimate causation. The Bible in this context offers an explanatory framework to this, positioning the divine mechanism that transcends the purely materialistic description of the universe by suggesting the very existence of the Higgs field can be interpreted as a testament to unrefuted truth of a purposeful creator. Now, this particular journey begins in 1964 when several theoretical physicists, most notably Peter Higgs, proposed a mechanism to explain a major flaw in a nascent standard model. The model describes the fundamental building blocks of the universe, quarks, leptons, and the forces that govern them. But it predicted that all of these particles should be massless, traveling at the speed of light. This contradicted an observed reality, which is electrons, quarks, the WZ bosons that all have mass. It was the proposed solution that the Higgs field, a pervasive, invisible quantum field filling all of space. That theory suggested that particles acquire mass by interacting with this particular field. And much like a celebrity walking into a crowded room, right, that attracts a cluster of people, giving the celebrity inertia, while a lesser known particle passes through without interaction. And the Higgs boson itself is the smallest, most observable excitation or ripple of this particular field. Now, to confirm this theory, the scientists had to create the Higgs boson in a controlled environment, which was done at the Large Hadron Collider at CERN, and that's located in Geneva. This 27-kilometer ring of superconducting magnets was designed to accelerate two beams of protons close to the speed of light and collide them. And what they do is collide them head on. Those collisions recreate energetic conditions that existed moments after the Big Bang. The discovery of this process was an engineering and analytical marvel. With the Higgs boson, the Higgs boson, highly unstable, decays almost instantaneously into other particles. Scientists could not see the Higgs boson directly, but they relied on two massive complementary detectors, the ATLAS and CMS, to record the debris of billions of collisions. Now, despite this monumental confirmation, the Higgs boson presents several profound theoretical conundrums to science. Now, these issues reveal the incompleteness of our understanding of the universe's most fundamental mechanics. And one of them is the hierarchy, fine-tuning of mass. The next one is the nature of the Higgs field vacuum energy and the lack of unified theory. The scientific inability to explain why the Higgs boson's mass is fine-tuned or why the universe's vacuum energy is so small creates a gap where science requires a mechanistic explanation. But the Christian worldview provides a theoretical explanation, and that's of divine purpose. And the Bible provides a compelling, coherent framework that addresses the gap left by the Higgs enigma. The New Testament speaks of Jesus Christ as the agent through whom all things were created, and critically as the one who sustains the entire cosmos. In Colossians 1:17, it says, "He is before all things, and in him all things hold together." And likewise in Hebrews 1-3, it says, "The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the extract representation of his being, sustained all things by his powerful word." And from this perspective, the Higgs field, the ubiquitous quantum medium that imbues matter with mass and determines the universe's most crucial energy densities, can be seen as the physical manifestation of Christ's active sustaining power. And the fine-tuning of the Higgs mass is not a random coincidence. 1 in 134 is but a reflection of the Creator's meticulous intent, because the parameters of the Higgs field are set precisely to ensure that matter, all stars, planets, and life can exist. And if the Higgs mass were only slightly different, by a fraction. Protons would be unstable, electrons would be too heavy to form atoms, and that would render the entire universe uninhabitable. How amazing is that? The perfect tuning provides a powerful, unrefuted evidence of a designer rather than sheer chance. And finally, the God particle as evidence of God. And my final argument in this theoretical analysis. The existence of the fundamental mechanism whose parameters are necessarily fine tuned for life, yet remain mechanistically inexplicable by current science, presents a powerful argument for the existence of God. Those scientific gaps, the inability to derive the Higgs mass or cosmological constant from the first principles, they're not flaws in nature. We found that they are the markers of its dependency. And the Christian perspective offers the complete answer. God, who is spirit and therefore not bound by material laws, he is established, created the universe with a deliberate purpose. The fundamental constants that govern the Higgs field are not accidental, they're prescribed truth. Therefore, the God particle stands as unrefuted truth that God does actually exist. The alternative, that the cosmos is a life permitting structure which science confirms to be dependent on inexplicable fine tuning, is merely stupendous cosmic accident, requires a greater leap of faith than just acknowledging the truth of a purposeful creator who sustains all things by the word of his power. And the Higgs boson confirms that the universe is not self-explanatory. It's an ordered, dependent system whose ultimate authority resides outside of itself, in the transcendent God of the Bible, the Almighty. Thank you very much for watching.